agers have the opportunity to build the quote-unquote family they want. They have the opportunity to decide who's in their life and who isn't. We don't always get that with family structures. Sometimes we do, but we usually don't. And so there's choice there.
Hello, and welcome to Not Born Yesterday, a podcast dedicated to older adults and the challenges and joys of aging. I'm Miriam Goodman. Not Born Yesterday examines the problems and solutions of growing older today. We bring you the wisdom and voices of experts in the field of aging and offer tips on how to feel your best, use your lifetime skills and experience, and make the coming months and years as fulfilling as possible.
I'm Lynn Winter-Gross. Not Born Yesterday is brought to you by Next Village San Francisco, a local nonprofit providing older adults with support to help age in place, and by Assisted Living Locators, a San Francisco Bay Area senior care advisory service, helping families make informed decisions about senior care and living options.
Today on Not Born Yesterday, we're examining a situation called solo aging. More than 22 million Americans are considered solo agers, older adults who have no partner or children or whose family is estranged or unavailable. This demographic will grow as we live longer and more adults find themselves without close family support. Many solo agers live rich, independent lives and embrace the joys of living alone. Some solo agers have ended up this way as a life choice, but even those who were married or had a partner, if that person has died and there's no close family around, the surviving partner is considered a solo ager.
Our guest today is Ailene Gerhardt, board-certified patient advocate and national authority on solo aging. Her company, Beacon Patient Solutions, is located in Boston. Ailene, welcome to Not Born Yesterday.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Good. Well, the idea of living alone as we age has created many stereotypes in our culture, either as an unencumbered free spirit or a lonely outsider whose days are filled with scammer phone calls or little chance to speak to anyone. But a recent study revealed that solo agers are also misunderstood. Many older adults who live alone are healthier, more cognitively capable, and more socially connected than those living with a spouse or adult children. Are the assumptions about this group different from other older adults?
I think that the presumptions about solo agers can vary. The key component for solo agers is that building that support network is very, very intentional. And so for some people, when they hear the word solo, they presume a connotation to it. And the reality is solo just means one. That's all it means. And so people do have choices, but it also comes with intentional planning as well.
So a recent AARP survey highlighted solo agers who relish their freedom and independence. They like having control of their lives and finances and feel they have more time for friends. But because they live alone, they definitely need social networks and support systems. So if the support is not coming from blood relatives, how does one begin to build a support system? Is it possible to build a community of peers?
Of course. So it's not unlike any other older adult wanting additional support and connection. As you mentioned, solo agers often do not have that initial layer of adult children or adult family members. And so to build a support network, it really takes intentional connection through a variety of different community organizations, through attending workshops, through if they have the opportunity, connecting to a village in their area.
So how does that begin? I mean, do you say to somebody you meet at a meeting, hey, I'm thinking about doing my will. I don't have a lot of family. I don't have a support group. I mean, how do you broach the subject with people.
Right. What's the how? Right. So we've identified the what's the how. So what I recommend to people, because this is also emotionally laden, it doesn't matter, again, if we identify as a solo or an older adult with a support network of adult children or adult family members. And so I highly encourage people to ask someone else, have you thought about identifying your healthcare proxy? How did you go about doing that? Right. So it helps us hopefully get over the hurdle of the fear of asking someone else for help, which no matter how much we practice as humans, we find very difficult. And once we do that, we're seeking someone else's expertise or experience. And often people are interested in sharing their expertise or experience. And so it makes it I really want to learn from you. And then you have the conversation. And if someone says, oh, this is how I did it, or this is what I thought about, great resource. If someone says, I haven't really thought about that yet, or I don't have anyone to designate, so I've put it off. Oh, would you like to do that? I'm thinking about that too. I'm starting to think about that. Is that something you and I could talk about together?
So we're not just talking about one solo ager talking to another solo ager. You can ask anybody.
You can ask anybody. I mean, the reality is since the time we arrive on the planet, we are aging. Right. And the need for planning in aging is really critical. And a problem is in our current infrastructure, there is no prompt to do that proactive planning. Often people experience planning in a reactive way, choosing a community to live in after there's been a physical change or a loss or et cetera. And so because of when it's proactive, you're in control of making those decisions and those choices, whereas reactive, you might be boxed into something that may not have been your first choice.
We all know older adults with partners or even nearby adult children who still seem isolated, either by mobility or feelings of safety. So do you see that it's really different for solo agers?
Again, it's that intentionality. I think in general, for everyone, having as robust a support network as possible is beneficial. I recommend to people that they think about it in an age diverse way so that again, learning from and with each other is a great way to go through life, and everyone has different experiences that can aid other people. And if we are seeking to develop an age diverse support network, we then have people who are connected to us and us to them who are at different stages of their lives. So if we're seeking some kind of medical assistance and we're concerned that our friends or other connections are navigating that for themselves, a partner, a family member, etc., then we might all be going through a similar thing at a similar time. By having other people in your network who are experiencing different things, perhaps raising children or being an empty nester, or whatever it is, or other solo agers, that gives people the opportunity to tap into people at different points.
What are the biggest fears of solo agers that you've found?
I'm actually in the middle of doing a survey, and so far what the 150 solo agers have said thus far, fears around healthcare management, both daily healthcare management and advanced care planning, sort of, in a crisis, who would advocate for me? That is a major barrier. Often for solo agers, a fear of being disconnected, right? The notion of the whole conversation around aging in community or aging in place, that may work for some people, but for other people, where they live right now is based on their ability to drive, their ability to get to public transportation, their ability for services to be open in their community. If any of those things change, then where I live and how I live changes drastically. And that's also a fear for solo agers. And again, these are specific that come up most frequently for solos, but quite honestly, are fears of older adults in general. And so if someone's meeting with an attorney, a financial advisor, and they're great professionals, and they ask about beneficiaries and they ask, oh, do you have kids? And the person says, no, I don't. That may be the end of the conversation about beneficiaries, when in fact, charitable giving, everything else, is a really great opportunity. And so one of the other pieces that solos are frequently sharing is they want to engage with solo aware professionals, meaning they're aware of the language or what the language may note to a solo ager, even though it's not intentional. We will help you and your family members, right? There's no malice in that, but it's just sort of structurally the way things have been presented.
So, going back to some of the things about healthcare and the fears, how does a solo ager, for example, give financial power of attorney to someone, especially if it's someone they haven't known very long?
So, financial power of attorney is a complex thing. It becomes often a barrier, even more so than designating a healthcare proxy. We societally don't really like to talk about money in the United States. We don't talk about our salaries. And now we're asking someone to open the doors wide open to everything about my financial plan. So again, there's that fear, there's that vulnerability, there's the worry of it not being legitimate. There are ways to secure that by if you do business with a financial institution, sometimes they have the role of being able to do that. For you in California and for Arizonans and only the two states, you have the opportunity to hire a fiduciary, a professional who can sign on as that durable power of attorney, meaning that they can be part of the process the whole time, not just when someone is in need of a financial advocate.
Are there certain professionals that deal specifically with solo agers?
There are a few around the country who do have a particular lens on working with solo agers. I actually convened a group of professionals in June of 2021 of people whose work has some connection to working with solo agers, a specific focus, a tangential focus, etc. So in all different disciplines, so that we would know each other and be able to refer. So there are some financial advisors. The list is growing as visibility about solo aging increases, but it's still a unique thing. So it's really about encouraging solo agers, training people, working with them, coaching to be able to know what to ask of a professional, so that they can get a sense of whether they're the right fit for them.
Do you think solo agers are more vulnerable than older adults when it comes to having a plan?
I think yes, because we don't have natural prompting for planning. And so I was giving a talk a few years ago, and a woman in Q&A said to me, how come no one taught us this in college? And the whole room laughed, right? And after I was done with, the people chuckling, I said, well, think about your 20-something-year-old self, whether you were in college, whether you were in your first job, whatever you were doing at that period of time. Would you have listened to planning for your 60, 70, 80-year-old self? Absolutely not. But the problem is, No one discussed it with her from that time period until that day she asked the question at the Q&A. Just about aging, what I want my life to look like, where I want to live, what's available to me, what are my interests in living a dynamic life? What do I need to make sure is in my community, in my network, right? We're not thinking about that in our 20s and 30s, but there is no national or societal prompt to say, this is a really good idea to start thinking about this.
Well, I have one question, a little off the subject, but are hospitals prepared for patients who have no next of kin? I mean, how does somebody find an advocate if they're in the hospital alone?
It's a great question. So our healthcare system and many of our systems are structured around the thought that people are connected to a quote unquote traditional family support network. And we haven't had that in, I don't know, decades and decades and decades, but our systems haven't caught up to that yet. And so it's really helpful for anyone, but solo agers in particular, to have a sense of who their 3 a.m. person might be, right? Because that's when things go weird at 3 a.m. They don't always happen at noon. And who would accompany them to the hospital or to a medical appointment to be another set of eyes and ears. They're not about, being the authority. An advocate is your supporting cast member, right? The individual, the patient, the older adult is the star player. And so what you need are a supporting cast.
But you need that name and number in your wallet when you get into the ER.
You do. There are great resources that fire departments, police departments, villages offer, often a file of life or something like that people post on their refrigerators and have their information. Often when I give talks and I say to people, okay, I'm standing here in person and I have great slide, set behind me, and it's being, broadcast from my laptop onto a screen, and I'm holding a wireless microphone. And isn't all this technology great? It is. And it's a great backup for that information besides the paper in your wallet. But I have never met anyone who had a hard time logging into a piece of paper.
I was just thinking, we're talking a lot about solo agers who are aging in place, but some solo agers might prefer assisted living situations or shared housing or co-ops. And that seems almost like the opposite of what solo aging is. So do you think there are housing models that are being created that are best for solo agers?
There are definitely the senior living community is slowly getting up to speed. There are a lot of great creative co-housing where people all live in the same place essentially, but have their own individual home settings and have shared spaces, a shared garden, a shared kitchen, whatever it is, for that communal piece, but still holding on to one's privacy and agency. Sometimes the models that are available in terms of assisted living, continuing care, retirement communities. The services are helpful. Sometimes there are financial barriers for a solo ager, either at this point in their life or throughout their whole life. They've been a single income. When you're looking at single income and you're looking at senior living communities, sometimes it's a hard fit for financial reasons. But they can be really helpful when there's assistance right on site and community to build. Solo, again, is just one that we all know. When we talk about social isolation, when we talk about humans in general, we are we want to be with other people and we need other people to thrive. I always say, like, life is about teamwork. I have a focus on working with solo agers. That doesn't mean that every single person has to subscribe to that. But when we have the support of other people, physically, emotionally, etc., to talk to when they're trying to make a decision, do some of that exploration ahead of time. You can always go back and revise the information if things change, but doing that ahead of time means, should someone experience cognitive decline or something else, physical decline, they have some pieces that they've already researched, which again gives you that control and be able to implement that.
We've talked a lot about the challenges of social aging, social agers. Some people choose that and they enjoy the advantages of it. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. That's my favorite part. I would say that solo agers have the opportunity to build the quote unquote family they want. They have the opportunity to decide who's in their life and who isn't. We don't always get that with family structures. Sometimes we do, but we usually don't. And so there's choice there. How one lives in their home, the opportunity to travel, to pursue interests, to make connections, to take classes. Those are good for older adults in general. For solo agers, they're even greater because, again, there's that control piece of pursuing what I might want to do. There are people who may not want to do any of those things, and that's okay too. But we're able to make choices that give us the kind of life that we're looking for.
Is there anything that we've missed before we end that you want to tell us about or tell our audience about?
So one of the things about solo aging, and there have been a number of articles written and people are increasing visibility, is it's just a phrase someone coined, Sarah Zeffgeber coined a number of years back. There were some other phrases that came up due to some clinical settings, etc. So there isn't a membership card. There isn't a definition, right? You don't have to qualify. So if any of this conversation resonates in any way and people want more resources, know that there are resources out there. I've had a couple people who have written me and said, I don't like the phrase solo ager. Okay. The other phrases that were initially used were unbefriended elder. Not great. That does not want you to give anyone a hug, right? Geriatric orphan.
Ooh.
Right. So I think solo ager is pretty great that way.
Thank you for sharing this information with us today. Our guest was Ailene Gerhardt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Today on News You Can Use, we are sharing information you might want to pass on to your children, grandchildren, or any young people you know who are still trying to figure out their career goals. The University of Wisconsin in Madison has noticed the need for people with expertise to work with older adults and is now offering a solution.
Beginning last fall, the university launched an interdisciplinary undergraduate certificate in aging studies. Dr. Jamie Goldberg, a professor in the School of Social Work, realized that as the baby boomer generation ages, millions of people will need special services and care. She said that students going into healthcare, whether it's medicine, pharmacy, genetic counseling, or physical therapy, still need to learn about the aging process from biological, psychological, and social perspectives, and will be able to offer services currently difficult to access. The Wisconsin curriculum is designed to be accessible to students from as many departments as possible. One required class is Social Issues in Aging, which requires students to volunteer at least 25 hours working with older adults.
The Certificate in Aging Studies aims to expand the cultural understanding of caring for older adults, framing it as a privilege rather than a burden. It also helps dispel stereotypes regarding older adults and aging. And since those students will one day be older adults themselves, Understanding their own needs and limitations will undoubtedly serve them and their families well. And that's our podcast for today. Our thanks to our guest, Ailene Gerhardt of Beacon Patient Solutions. You can learn more about Next Village San Francisco at their website, nextvillagesf.org, or call them at 415-888-2868. To learn more about assisted living locators, contact Senior Care Advisor Brent Hensley at BrentH@assistedlivinglocators.com. That's BrentH@assistedlivinglocators.com. Our theme music is from Hook Sounds, and Claire Winslow is our engineer. And we want to thank you for listening. We'd love to hear what you would like us to discover and discuss. Please contact us at notbornyesterdaypodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. All of them are free and let us know our audience better. Be well, stay strong, and remember, you weren't born yesterday. I'm Lynn Winter Gross.
And I'm Miriam Goodman.